confident that there will be action taken. And there must, because inaction is to be complicit in Islamophobia. We're at an inflection point as a nation, and I refuse to accept that to be gay is for it to be par for the course to experience homophobia. To be a woman, is it par for the course for you to experience misogyny? To be black is par for the course, or immigrant, or Hispanic, or Asian, that is par for the course that you will experience hate.
Progressives introduced a resolution to strip Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of her committee assignments on Wednesday for her continuous Islamophobic attacks on Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Over a dozen House Democrats backed the resolution, according to Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley's office, but Democratic leaders are reticent to move forward with the measure and instead want the House Minority Leader to take responsibility for his Republican caucus. According to Politico, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi privately told Omar yesterday that revoking Boebert's committee assignments is still on the table, but few senior Democrats believe Pelosi will advance it. Democratic leaders are instead focusing on a bill drafted by Omar that will create a special State Department envoy to track and combat Islamophobia worldwide. Joining me now to discuss, Dean Obeidallah, host of SiriusXM Radio's The Dean Obeidallah Show and columnist for MSNBC Daily. Dean, so why are they dragging their feet? Why won't they just punish this Congresswoman for clear homophobic remarks? Not homophobic, sorry, Islamophobic remarks. Sorry.
Well, look, here's the reality. I would like them to condemn it and have Republicans go on record. But let's take a step back, Charles. Anti-Muslim bigotry has been a staple of the GOP for over a decade. In 2012, it began in earnest in that presidential campaign with Newt Gingrich and the late Herman Cain saying Muslims want to impose Sharia law. We want to impose our religious beliefs as the law of the land, which is ironic as they're doing that on abortion across the country. Then you had Donald Trump in 2016 take anti-Muslim bigotry to heights we have never seen, or depths, I should say, saying Islam hates us, lying that Muslims cheered on 9/11 in New Jersey, and saying there should be a complete and total shutdown of Muslims in America. What Congressman Boebert is doing is following the wheel already created, which is the GOP base loves anti-Muslim bigotry. And if people saw the clip of her doing her joke suggesting Congressman Omar is a suicide bomber, but in a jest fashion, the audience loved it. We saw numerous clips of her doing the same joke, and they loved it. So look, I want to see the GOP stop weaponizing bigotry and hate. And I'm actually glad on some level, put more pressure on McCarthy. He refuses to denounce Boebert. And I think Democrats got to use this in the 2022 midterm. But I think the Democrats are going to censure her. I don't know if they'll ship it from committees. I have to hear from Congressman Omar, who I might actually have on my radio show tomorrow night if things go well, and talk to her about it firsthand. But this is nothing new for this GOP. It is worse than any anti-Muslim hate group in the amount of anti-Muslim hate they've spread in this nation.
I think you're right about all of that, and I think, you know, the examples you cite are kind of grand but more general. This is one congressperson going after another congressperson with hate speech. The decorum of the House of Representatives is what is now at stake, the rules that govern that body. There is, if she is not of who can say the most outrageous, most offensive thing to the most people, whether they be their colleagues or not, that is going to keep going as long as people donate money as soon as somebody says something like this and gets in trouble for it, right? So that's going to keep going. The House has to draw a line somewhere. Do you not just agree? Like, forget all the other Islamophobia in the world. This is happening from one House member to another, and the House has to act and say, we won't have this.
Sure, I agree. And there should be a vote, at least on the record, of censure to denounce her. You want to take her from her committees? That's fine. I don't care. But getting to your point of you're going to raise money off this, Marjorie Taylor Greene, in the early part of this year, stripped of her committees, right? Only 11 Republicans agreed to condemn it. She raised $3 million from Republicans in the first quarter. She was celebrated. I'm not suggesting don't strip Boebert of her committee because she's going to become a martyr. They love what she's talking about. The leaders of this GOP are Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're Paul Gosar. It is Lauren Boebert. It is Madison Cawthorn. It is the most extreme members that, and the media calls them extremists. No, they are the mainstream. They are what the base likes to hear from. So, yeah, Charles, stripping Boebert of her committees, it sends a message. It does nothing to stop the GOP from weaponizing hate. The only thing that will stop them is losing elections running on weaponizing hate. And that's going to take Democrats raising money and having good candidates go against the GOP. That's it. It's the only way they're going to change, because politicians repeat the same behavior. It helps them win elections. They only stop repeating it when they lose elections from it.
Do you think that there's a way to clearly associate a loss for one of these Republicans to their Islamophobia? I'm trying to figure out, what do you think is the way that we get this behavior to stop, or can we get this behavior to stop?
I think the only way, the Muslim community is small. We don't have the power to defeat someone, except maybe in 1 or 2 districts in this nation. It's the idea that, as Martin Luther King talked about, this mutuality that we go through, that what affects one of us directly or indirectly affects another directly, and vice versa. That we have to be there for each other as communities, because the GOP is going to circle back and go against the LGBT community, the Latino community, and the Black community, and the Muslim community. They go through all of us, and it's up to each of us together to stand up. And that's how we defeat them. My community alone, too small to do it. We need the help, and we're going to be there for your communities. That's the lesson of the Trump era. And I'll tell you, what's so concerning, the words of Boebert, it's like the words of Trump. It led to hate crimes, and that's what concerns us. We saw more anti-Muslim hate crimes in 2016 because of Trump's rhetoric than in the year after 9/11. And that's because of Donald Trump spewing hate against it. We saw the mosques defaced. We saw Muslim women with hijabs get beat up. There were terrorist plots by self-avowed Trump supporters, like in Kansas. The guys got convicted, 3 of them, 25 years to life, for trying to build a weapon of mass destruction to kill Muslims there. They were doing it for Trump, and they weren't the only ones. So this is very real. This is beyond a few bad words. As Congressman Omar's talked about, this translates into hate crimes against our community and bullying against Muslim American students in this country. So my heart breaks for them, especially women with hijabs. It's the outward symbol of our faith, and they have to deal with it. So I hope together, Black, brown, the biggest component of our community is African-American Muslims. They're 1/3 of our community. We're all in this together. We have to stand up against hate, against any community they come for. We stand up united. That's how we defeat them.
Dean Obeidallah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it, as always.